There is a strange feeling around Celtic Park right now, one that is hard to ignore and even harder to shake off. As the derby approaches, the usual electricity that runs through the city feels muted, replaced by a mix of anxiety, frustration, and a sense of uncertainty that many supporters are struggling to process. This is normally the kind of fixture that lifts everyone, no matter how poor the form or how bleak the mood, but this time it feels different. The excitement that should be building has been replaced by questions, doubts, and a quiet worry about where this team is actually heading. In recent weeks, Celtic have looked like a side caught between ideas, systems, and confidence levels. Performances have lacked cohesion, and instead of seeing a group moving together with a clear plan, it often feels like individual players are being left to fend for themselves on the pitch. That lack of togetherness has been glaring, especially in matches where the opposition have been brave enough to press high and exploit the space left behind. When that happens, the cracks appear quickly, and once they do, there is very little reassurance coming from the bench or from the structure of the team itself. The defeat against Motherwell still lingers in the minds of many supporters, not just because of the result, but because of how it unfolded. There was a sense of inevitability about the goals conceded, as if the team were slowly being pulled apart without any real resistance. Defenders were exposed repeatedly, often isolated, with no cover, and it raised serious questions about communication, responsibility, and desire. Watching players left alone to deal with wave after wave of pressure was uncomfortable, and it fed into the growing narrative that this squad no longer looks like a united group fighting for one another. The issue is not just tactical, it feels emotional as well. Confidence looks fragile, decision-making hesitant, and even basic moments, like playing out from the back, have become a source of anxiety rather than control. There have been situations where hesitation has crept in, where players seem unsure whether to commit, pass, or clear their lines, and that uncertainty spreads quickly through a team. Once that happens, opponents sense it, and Celtic have paid the price more than once this season. Going into a derby in this kind of form is never ideal, especially when recent history in big games offers little comfort, time, and again, when the pressure has been highest, Celtic have struggled to produce performances that match the occasion. There have been exceptions, of course, moments of pride and resilience, but too often the pattern has been one of disappointment. That is why optimism feels so restrained this time around. Supporters want to believe, but belief is hard to manufacture when the evidence on the pitch keeps pointing in the same direction. The presence of Wilfried Nancy at the center of all this debate adds another layer of complexity. It is clear that he is not viewed as a bad coach by many, but there is a growing sense that he may simply be the wrong fit for the Celtic at this particular moment. Managing this club demands more than ideas and systems. It requires authority, presence, and an ability to carry the weight of expectation without flinching. Celtic have been here before, and history shows that the managers who succeed are those who embrace that pressure and impose themselves on the situation rather than being consumed by it. Right now, it feels like the pressure is winning. The players do not look fully convinced, the supporters are restless, and the board appear distant, content to let things drift rather than take decisive action. That combination is dangerous, especially at a club where momentum and belief are everything. Even if Celtic were to find a way to beat Rangers, there is a lingering doubt about what that would actually change. Would it mark a turning point, or Would it simply be a brief high followed by another slide back into inconsistency? That lack of trust in continuity is perhaps the most worrying aspect of all. There is no clear sense that one good result will lead to sustained improvement. Instead, it feels like every match exists in isolation, disconnected from any broader progress. That is not how successful teams operate, and it is certainly not how Celtic supporters expect their club to function. Consistency has always been a cornerstone of success here, and without it, everything feels fragile. Against this backdrop, the arrival of a new signing, even on a temporary basis, brings mixed emotions. On one hand, there is relief that something is happening, that the squad is being addressed in some way. On the other, there is skepticism about whether short-term solutions can really fix deep-rooted issues. A lone player can add energy, pace, or competition, but they cannot instantly restore belief or heal a fractured sense of identity within the squad. Expectations must be realistic, especially when the player arrives without much recent game time and is immediately thrust into a high-pressure environment. There is also the wider concern about strategy. Bringing in players who suit a very specific system only makes sense if there is absolute commitment to that system and the manager behind it. If there is uncertainty at the top, then every short-term decision risks creating long-term problems. Celtic have been caught in this cycle before, signing players for one vision only to abandon it months later, leaving a squad that feels mismatched and unbalanced. Supporters have seen this story play out too many times, and patience is wearing thin. As the derby draws closer, emotions continue to swirl. Hope is still there, because hope never truly disappears at a club like Celtic, but it is cautious and guarded. Fans will turn up, voices will be loud, and the stadium will demand a response, but whether the team can meet that demand remains the great unknown. Everything feels delicately poised, balanced between the chance of a statement performance and the fear of another painful setback. And that tension hangs heavy in the air as the countdown continues. As kickoff approaches, the conversation around Celtic only grows heavier, because this is no longer just about one match or one rival. This is about direction, leadership, and whether this squad is capable of responding when everything around it feels unstable. A derby has a way of stripping football back to its rawest form, where excuses mean nothing and effort is non-negotiable. That is why so many supporters are clinging to the hope that this fixture, of all fixtures, can spark something that has been missing for far too long. The problem is that recent performances have made it difficult to trust that instinct. Too often this season, Celtic have entered big matches with questions hanging over them, and instead of answering those questions with authority, they have allowed doubts to grow. The team have struggled to impose themselves, both physically and mentally, and when momentum has swung against them, there has been little sign of a collective response. In games of this magnitude, hesitation is fatal, and that has been evident more than once. One of the most concerning aspects has been how vulnerable Celtic look when opponents are allowed to run at them. Transitions have been messy, spaces have opened up far too easily, and the structure that should protect the back line has not been reliable. When that protection disappears, defenders are left exposed, facing situations that no player should repeatedly have to deal with on their own. Over time, that erodes confidence, not just individually, but across the entire defensive unit. There is also a growing sense that the players themselves are unsure of what is being asked of them. Systems can change, roles can evolve, but clarity is essential, especially in a league where intensity and organization are decisive. Right now, Celtic often look caught between ideas, unsure whether to press aggressively or drop off, whether to play quickly or slow the tempo. That uncertainty invites pressure, and pressure has become something this team struggles to cope with. Looking at Rangers, there is an understanding that they are not invincible either. They have their own flaws, their own inconsistencies, and they are not dominating opponents in the way a truly confident side would do. They are willing to concede possession and to sit in and wait for mistakes, and that approach has worked because Celtic have given them those mistakes. Poor decisions, loose passes, and lapses in concentration have been punished, and that is exactly what will happen again if nothing changes. Set pieces remain a particular worry. Goals conceded from those situations have felt avoidable, yet they keep happening, and that points to deeper issues around organization and focus. In a derby where margins are fine and emotions run high, those moments can decide everything. Being switched on, taking responsibility, and winning individual battles becomes crucial, and Celtic have not always shown they can be trusted to do that consistently. The debate around the manager continues to simmer, and it is clear that many supporters have reached a point where they are asking a simple question rather than arguing about tactics or formations. Can things genuinely improve from here, or are Celtic stuck in a cycle that will only repeat itself? That question is not rooted in anger as much as exhaustion. Fans want to believe in a plan, but belief requires evidence, and evidence has been in short supply. Even so, football has a habit of defying logic, especially in derbies. History is full of moments where form went out the window and emotion took over. Celtic Park can still be an overwhelming place, capable of dragging performances out of players who look lost everywhere else. The crowd will demand intensity from the first whistle, and if the team can channel that energy rather than be crushed by it, there is always a chance. Individual players will need to step up in a way they have not consistently done this season. Leadership cannot be a vague concept. It has to be visible in challenges, in communication, in moments where someone takes control and refuses to let standards slip. These are the games where reputations are forged or damaged, and several players are approaching a crossroads in how they are perceived by the support. The situation off the pitch only adds to the tension. There is a growing feeling that decisions are being delayed, that responsibility is being passed around rather than owned. When supporters sense a lack of urgency from above, it filters down, creating frustration, and resentment. Celtic have always thrived when there is alignment between the board, the manager, the players, and the fans. And right now, that alignment feels badly fractured. January should be a time of opportunity, but it currently feels like another unknown. Short-term fixes may arrive, but whether they address the real problems is questionable. What Celtic need most is not just new faces, but a clear sense of purpose. Without that, any addition risks becoming another temporary solution in a long list of unresolved issues. As the hours tick down, anticipation mixes with dread. No one wants to approach a derby feeling this conflicted, torn between hope and resignation. Yet, that is where many supporters find themselves, longing for a performance that reminds them of what Celtic are supposed to represent. Pride, aggression, belief, and unity are words that have been repeated endlessly, not because they are cliches, but because they have been missing. Whatever happens on the pitch, it will be scrutinized not just as a result, but as a signal. A strong showing could buy time, restore a measure of faith and quiet some of the noise, at least temporarily. A poor performance, on the other hand, would deepen the sense that this chapter is drifting towards an inevitable end, and that the questions being asked now will only grow louder in the days that follow. The question is whether this group has enough conviction left to seize that moment, or whether doubt will once again prove stronger than desire, leaving the same questions unanswered and the same tensions unresolved as the season drags on. Before we proceed, subscribe to our channel and enable notifications to receive all exclusive news about Celtic FC. Don't miss any details about your favorite team. It's extremely important for Celtic FC fans. In what could be the most startling move of the season, whispers from inside Parkhead suggest Celtic have struck a deal for promising right-back Josh Doig, the young fullback, whose performances south of the border have already caught the eye of scouts from across Europe, is rumored to be set to bring a new dimension to Ange Postecoglou's side. While official confirmation has yet to drop, sources close to the club claim talks moved at a frantic pace, leaving fans buzzing with anticipation about the possibilities on the pitch. Doig, known for his blistering pace, tenacity in defense, and eye for an attacking run, could be exactly what Celtic have been missing at right back in recent campaigns. If the deal goes through as speculated, it may signal a shift in the club's transfer strategy, with a renewed focus on young, energetic players capable of blending into a fast-paced attacking system. Insiders hint that Postecoglou sees Doig not just as a squad addition, but as a key piece to help reshape Celtic's season from the back, potentially altering formations and tactical approaches. Supporters are already imagining how his arrival might change the team's dynamic. The prospect of overlapping runs down the flank, defensive solidity, and an added spark to Celtic's forward play has pundits and fans alike theorizing wildly. Social media chatter has exploded, with hashtags predicting Doig's impact and speculation over how his style could complement the likes of Jota, Kyogo, and others in the attacking third. Yet, as with all big rumors, caution is advised. There are murmurs that other clubs remain interested, and contract intricacies might still delay an official unveiling. Nevertheless, Parkhead insiders suggest that the club is quietly confident, with negotiations reportedly reaching the final stages. Should the deal be completed, it could well mark a turning point in the Hoops' season, reshaping expectations and perhaps even signaling a new era in the way the team operates under Postecoglou. For now, fans are left to dream, debate, and speculate. One thing is certain: if Josh Doig does arrive, Celtic's campaign could take an unexpected, thrilling twist, leaving rivals wary of what this young Scottish talent could bring to the Premiership battle. Hello, fan. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, as it means a lot to Celtic FC. Also, share your opinion about the news in the comments below. See you in the next video.